Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 3915BN. Today's date is May 29th, 2026, and the title of the episode is Soros has been put on notice. Deep state army of terrorists are being destroyed worldwide. Time is now. This episode is brought to you by Native Path Antarctic Krill Oil, Omega-3s, and astaxanthin for heart, joints, and memory. Raise your hand if you're taking fish oil. Okay, I have some news for you. It may not be doing what you think it is. Research out of the Journal of Agriculture and Food Chemistry found that fish oil is 50% less absorbable than a different kind of omega-3. And today's sponsor has the better version. If you've been taking fish oil for heart, joint, or memory support, here's something you need to know. Research shows fish oil is 50% less absorbable than krill oil because fish oil's omega-3s are in triglyceride form, while krill oils are in phospholipid form, which is the same format your cell walls are made of. That means krill oil gets into your cells immediately. In a head-to-head studies, krill oil outperforms fish oil at improving cholesterol, reducing inflammation, and easing joint pain, often at lower doses. Native Path Arctic Krill Oil is sourced from the pristine Antarctic waters, contains the most powerful antioxidant, astaxanthin, and comes in a tiny soft gel. No fishy burp. For my special bundle offer plus free shipping, head to getkrill.com/X22. That's getkrill.com/X22, or just click the link in the description. Let's get into the economic collapse, political, and geopolitical news. Now, the deep state, the corrupt politicians, big tech, fake news, the puppet masters, you can see they're panicking because look at what Trump is doing right now. Number one, he's basically exposing all those people that came after him. All those people that committed treason where they overthrew the United States government and they continued with the grand conspiracy, with the coup. He's also going after those people behind the scenes. Because remember, it's not just those people that we have seen, like Brennan and Clapper and Comey and Hillary and Obama. There are many, many people behind the scenes that have been pushing these agendas by using their vast sums of the people's money. And again, yes, they might have money, but again, they're actually using the people's money to pay for our own destruction. And you could see that Trump now is across the world destroying the deep state army of terrorists. And this is happening worldwide. Right now, you could see that Trump is working with Guatemala and many other nations where these nations are going to allow the United States to go after the cartel members. So on the Western Hemisphere, what we are seeing is that Trump is destroying the deep state army of terrorists in the Western Hemisphere. Trump is already out in the Middle East, destroying the deep state terrorist army out there, removing their funding, removing their control. Because without their deep state army of terrorists, the deep state players have a major, major problem. And you think about why they set all this up, because, again, they set it all up to basically push fear across the world. That's their main objective, is to push fear and make people afraid. And when people are afraid, they don't think logically. When they don't think logically, they'll just go along with what would ever make them feel safe. So basically, this is what our founding fathers actually warned us about from the very, very beginning. And remember, when you're looking at Antifa, not just here in this country, but across the world, you can see that there are many different organizations, many different NGOs that have been funding all of this. And of course, this is coming from the laundered money. This is how they run their system. And now we have Treasury Secretary. He's letting everyone know that they are now going and looking at how the money flows, which NGOs. And these NGOs are going to be held responsible for any type of destruction, any type of violence or anything like that. So Soros right now, his entire organization, the NGOs and everything else, has been put on notice because, again, Trump already designated these different groups as terrorist organization. Anyone that assists with these organizations, they are linked to the terrorist groups. So Soros right now has been put on notice. And you can see every step of the way, Trump and team, they haven't been just, fighting and beating the deep state players. They've been fighting those people that have been hiding behind the curtain, those people that have been actually calling the shots. And now you can see that Trump and team, they are now pushing them back. And you can see they're winning every step of the way. This is why Trump brought in Kristi Noem first in the DHS to structure the DHS, then brought her into the new position that she's going to be dealing with all the Central American countries, South American countries, working with Rubio to set everything up, number one, for a deportation, but two, to go after the cartels, the gangs, and everything else that the deep state players have set up. So Trump is destroying this worldwide, and now he's tracing all of this back to those people that have been funding all of this, which means they are treasonous to this country. They're enemies of the state. And this is the time to do it. This is the time to bring all of this down, because if you notice, Trump's leverage is getting stronger and stronger every single day. Every single time he brings down the deep state players or shuts them down or exposes the deep state players get weaker and weaker and weaker. When he sets countries free, they're getting weaker and weaker and weaker. When he removes the funding, they're getting weaker and weaker and weaker every step of the way. And if you notice, the more that Trump exposes to the people, the harder it is for the deep state players. And it's going to continually be hard for them as time goes on, because you can see that Trump is now preparing and setting everything up to bring the whole entire system down. And you can see with Tulsi Gabbard leaving, it looks like there's going to be a lot of declassification of a lot of information that is going to be coming out. So when you start to look at all this, you can see how Trump now is building the entire system to go against the deep state players. And while he's doing this, he's also showing the people the actual system. And that's what this is all about, because people don't understand the system. People don't understand how the blackmail works, how the money system works, how they were involved in all the different countries, how they're the ones who pay for the terrorists. If people don't understand this, people aren't going to fight back in the future. They're not going to understand, why we had to fight these people, why we had to make sure that this never happens again. Because again, if people don't learn, if people don't understand, they won't fight for their freedoms. As people understand it and people see it, they start to understand it. If you remember the Revolutionary War, the founding fathers, they knew what they were fighting for. They knew what freedom was. They knew that people were going to die. They knew all of this. And this is why they were able to keep the country for a very long time. This is why they were able to create the Constitution. This is why they were able to keep America. The same thing's happening right now. I do believe we're fighting the second revolution. And for people to keep the country, the people must understand how this evil enemy took over the country. And you can't just drop it on people's laps and say, hey, this is what they've done, because no one will believe you. You have to see it with your own eyes. You have to understand it. And it has to be introduced very, very slowly. Because again, you don't want people to shut down. You want people to accept it as time goes on. And you have to do it in a way that people say, hey, look, it's happening over there. And it's also happening over there. Who is doing all of this? And people are going to start to ask questions. Just like they started to ask questions, why are we bringing all these illegals in? In the very beginning, a lot of the country was all for it. Then they started to understand, wait a minute, they use up our resources. Crime gets worse and worse. And the streets look awful. The cities are dangerous. And the country is going down the tubes. People started to understand. And this is what's happening right now. And it's going to continue to happen. And you could see, as Trump shuts down the entire system, the deep state players are going to become more and more panicked. Because again, when they lose their system of laundering money, when they lose their system of their terrorist army, when they lose all of this, they have nothing to fight back with. And that's what Trump is doing. This is why he's doing this, because he wants the leverage. He wants to make sure that they don't have the ability to do anything. They don't have the funding. They can't use the blackmail. They can't use their terrorist organizations. They can't do anything, because when we go after these people, we need to make sure that we have the leverage, that we have the strength, that we have the ability to take them down. And Trump has planned this out a long time ago. We'll be talking a lot more about this a little bit later. But first, let's talk about how Trump and team and how they're trolling the deep state players. They put out a video called aliens.gov, and it says that the aliens are living among us. Now, you could take this in two ways. The illegal aliens that are in this country, they're living, in our cities, living in our neighborhoods. They're illegally here. Or you can also take it as aliens are actually here on Earth living on this planet. So it looks like Trump and team, they're doing a little bit of trolling. Very, very interesting. And when you really think about it, and you think about illegals, and you think about Antifa, and you think about how all these people are trying to stop ICE, because, again, the illegals, those are the constituents of the D's, you could see why they wanted the ICE agents to remove their masks, because they were hoping they would be able to use fear tactics to go after their families. So this way, these people wouldn't hunt down the illegals. Because, again, if these people weren't wearing masks, their families, their wives, their children, their parents, they would be harassed, or maybe something terrible would happen. And now you understand why they're wearing masks. Actually, Nick Sorter put this out and said, this is exactly why ICE agents are forced to wear masks. ICE Newark Rider, I have your face, mother effer. Your whole effing family is dead. Your kids, your wife, all dead. This is the type of terrorism Democrats want ICE agents to face by demasking them. And this is why they have been wearing masks. Because, again, they're facing the Soros army, and the Soros army wants to go and destroy them. This way they can stop the ICE agents or keep them in fear, and hoping the ICE agents would say, listen, I'm not going out there because they know who my family is. They know who I am. And I don't want anything to happen. So they're trying to use fear to try to stop the ICE agents. And this is why the Trump administration was so strong in saying, no, they're going to wear masks because we don't want them to track down the families. And this is proof that this is exactly what they were going to do. Because, again, this is the only weapon they have to try to stop ICE. Because you have to remember, ICE has the law behind them. And there's nothing they can do about this now. So the only thing they'd be able to use is fear. But it's not going to work, just like everything else. And you could see at this point in time, like we said in the very, very beginning, Trump now is removing the deep state terrorist army worldwide. And it's not just out in Iran. Remember, shut down the funding there, shut down everything. And now Hezbollah, Hamas, and the rest, they're on life support right now. And remember, this was the terrorist organizations that they used to control the world and to push their agendas. And it's not just that. It's also ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Al-Shabaab, and the rest. On the Western Hemisphere, they use the MS-13 gangs. They use the cartels. They use Tren de Agua. They use all of these to basically keep control and keep their money flowing, by transporting people, which is human trafficking, child trafficking, by transporting drugs, by transporting oil and everything else. And now Trump is making deals with the different countries in Central America and South America to get rid of the cartels. Eric Doherty put this out and said, Guatemala just gave the green light to allow President Trump's War Department to carry out cartel strikes inside the borders. Ecuador has already agreed to this arrangement, and Honduras may be next. So basically, you could see that Trump right now and his team, they're working with all these different countries. And Trump also let us know that there are CIA agents already in Mexico assisting in removing the cartel there. So I do believe what we're going to see is we're going to see U.S. forces within these countries assisting the government to get rid of the cartels in this entire area. Now, again, the deep state players, they work with the cartels. They work with the gang members. So Trump, when you look at this and you step back and you take the 40,000-foot view, you can see he's destroying the entire deep state terrorist army, the army that has been funded via drugs, human trafficking, and the taxpayers. Because, again, a lot of the money for them to operate comes from the United States. And all of this is being shut down. And you can see that the installed leaders across the world, they're panicking. Because, again, as this is all shut down, they lose their powers. They lose their leverage. Remember, most of the leaders out in like Germany and the UK and France and Spain, they're just holding on. Their poll numbers are so low that they don't know what to do at this point in time. Remember, they actually really wanted a war because this would distract their population. But since there is no war, the people are rising up. The people are saying enough is enough. I'm not saying they're going to riot and take over, but they're forming other parties and they're gaining strength and they're going to override the older parties. Marin Afal put this out and said, Germany's CDU is reportedly holding private discussions about replacing Chancellor Merz. Names being floated: North Rhine, Westphalia Premier, Hendrik Wüst, Hesse Governor Boris Rhein, and Saxony Premier Michael Kretschmer. A year in, stalled reforms, poor polling, and the party is already looking for the exit. And again, you have to remember, there is an AfD party that is gaining strength in Germany because, again, these people are holding on by a thread at this point in time. And they were hoping to have a major war to distract the people, but now they don't have that. It's completely and utterly falling apart. They'll still try to push it. I mean, this is their end goal of all of this. But again, you could see Starmer's in trouble, Merz is in trouble, Macron is in trouble. Now we have Sanchez, he's in trouble in Spain. All of these installed idiots, they're all in trouble right now. Eventually, the people will override them and they will throw them out. And I do believe that time is approaching very, very quickly because we're starting to see the world completely change. And basically, the old guard out in Europe is holding on with dear life at this point because you can see Trump now is gaining all the strength. Trump has all the leverage. He's changing everything, the entire economic structure, the entire currency structure, the structure of the entire world is being shifted right now away from the deep state players, and they no longer have control. And what's very interesting is when we look at Ukraine, we can see there's been a little bit of false reporting out there. I mean, there's been a lot of false reporting out there, but here's another false report where we have the EU's senior diplomat, Kaja Kallas, claimed the U.S. was the only country to evacuate its embassy in response to Russian threats against the Ukrainian capital over the weekend because Russia hit Ukraine pretty darn hard. And it looks like this story is completely and utterly fake. And it looks like the U.S. embassy is open. There are no changes to operations, and any other reports are completely and utterly false. So basically, no one was told to evacuate. No one was running. Nobody was doing anything. So once again, the story is completely and utterly fake, just like everything else the deep state players do. I mean, it's absolutely unbelievable. Now, when we look at Iran, it looks like Trump now is looking over a peace deal. It looks like a 60-day ceasefire, and we'll probably see how this goes. But he's looking it over. He'll make a decision on it, and it looks like most likely he'll agree to it at this point. I mean, he put out a truth, which we'll be reading in a little bit, about the deal, and it seems like he's going to be getting everything that he wants. Now, remember, the fake news is going to try to spin this. They're going to say he didn't win, Iran won, blah, 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 but it's not true whatsoever. Iran is a nation that is no longer controlled by the deep state. Iran is a nation that is going to start to shift, just like Venezuela. I mean, everyone thought, oh yeah, you took out Maduro, that's not going to change anything. Well, it changed quite a bit. You're going to see a huge change in Iran. But what's very interesting is that the Iranians, they were actually assisting Israel in bringing down the weapon systems in Iran. Tony Saruga explains, Iranians versus Iran. Mossad sleeper agents, not Israelis, led the ground assault that crushed Tehran's air defense in Operation Rising Lion. Mind-blowing revelation from Wynette, the daring ground ops in the opening minutes of Operation Rising Lion. Not Israeli commandos on the ground, but Iranian nationals recruited and trained by Mossad. These agents had slipped back into Iran years earlier, living normal civilian lives until activation in the spring of 2025. A joint Mossad-IAF team tasked them with destroying a key air defense site near Tehran, paving the way for Israeli jets to strike deep. Weapons, drones, and missile parts were smuggled in, disassembled, and hidden everyday items like luggage or appliances. Final target coordinations dropped only minutes before launch. Additional Mossad cells activated the same night, guided precision strikes on senior IRGC aerospace commanders and crippled more air defenses, plus ballistic missile systems across Tehran and western Iran. This is next-level infiltration. Mossad didn't just penetrate. They turned the regime's own people against it from within. Israelis' intelligence dominance is on full display. What a masterclass in asymmetric warfare. And you can see that Trump now is working with Iran, and basically Iran will no longer control the Strait of Hormuz like they did before. And I do believe, number one, this is to decentralize the oil across the globe and make nations compete with the oil and make sure there's no fear pricing that is going on. And you have to remember, the Strait of Hormuz is not international water. Geo Insider explains, yesterday and over the past few days, we kept hearing the Strait of Hormuz is international waters. Let's be clear about a few things. It's not. The strait, at its narrowest, is around 21 nautical miles wide. Under UNCLOS, the main framework governing international maritime law, every coastal state holds territorial waters extending 12 nautical miles from its coastline. Iran sits on one side, Oman on the other. Their zones overlap completely at the narrowest point. There is no strip of international waters between them. Every ship transiting Hormuz is technically sailing through either Iranian or Omani sovereign territory. So why can't Iran just close it? Because UNCLOS created a specific legal regime for exactly this situation, transit passage, under Article 3744. It applies to straits where territorial waters leave no open corridor, and it grants all vessels, including warships, an unimpeded right of navigation that coastal states cannot suspend, even within their own territorial waters. But here's the catch. Iran never ratified UNCLOS, neither did the United States. Iran argues it holds sovereign authority over access to the strait and under its own legal framework. The international community rejects it, applying transit passage as customary law regardless. Strait of Hormuz is a territorial sea forming an international strait with navigation rights that coastal states cannot lawfully close or suspend for normal peaceful transit. Iran's domestic law claims broader control in some areas, but this is widely disputed under international law. So it looks like international law is saying, listen, no, this is open to all ships. They can pass through. There's no control over this. And this is what Trump is doing now. If you notice, he got Russia to say it. He has the EU saying it. He has now China saying it. So the world right now is agreeing with Trump that the Strait of Hormuz should be open. Ask yourself a simple question. Why did he get all these nations to admit this? Because the purpose was to override Iran, to say, no, all ships have the right to go through. And once again, you could see Trump is winning. Now, like we said before, now the debt keeps climbing and you're watching what the Fed is doing. You already know they're out of easy answers. Bitcoin was built for exactly this environment. A fixed supply, no central bank. No one can print more of it, and you can hold it inside a proper retirement account with all the tax advantages that come with that. With My Digital Money, you get a crypto IRA with your assets held in cold storage completely offline. A regulated U.S. custodian and a real U.S.-based team you can actually get on the phone. You can also hold fractional precious metals alongside your crypto in the same account. But the core is giving you direct protected exposure to digital assets inside your retirement strategy. If you've been waiting for a smarter way to position your retirement for what's coming, go to mydigitalmoney.com, enter X22 in the promo code field, and you may be eligible for a promotion up to $200 based on your investment amount. That is mydigitalmoney.com. Trump right now, he is looking at the current terms of the 60-day Iran agreement proposal, and he put this out on Truth. Iran must agree that they will never have a nuclear weapon or bomb. The Hormuz Strait must be immediately open, no tolls for unrestricted shipping traffic in both directions. All water mines, bombs, if any, will be terminated. We have removed, through detonation, numerous such mines with our great underwater minesweepers. Iran will complete the immediate removal and or detonation of any mines that are left, which will be many. Ships caught in the strait due to our amazing and unprecedented naval block, which will now be lifted, may start the process of heading home. Say hello to our wives, husbands, parents, and families from me, your favorite president. The enriched material, sometimes referred as nuclear dust, which is buried deep underground with virtually collapsed mountains caused by our powerful B-2 bomber attacks 11 months ago, sitting on top of it, will be unearthed by the United States, which it is agreed is the only country, along with China, with the mechanical capability of doing so, in close coordination and conjunction with the Islamic Republic of Iran, plus the International Atomic Energy Agency, and destroyed. No money will be exchanged until further notice. Other items of far less importance have been agreed to. I will be meeting now in the Situation Room to make a final determination. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President DJT. So basically, Iran right now is going to agree that the strait will always be open. You'll not be able to control it. You'll not use weapons or anything like that. So basically, Trump is going to remove all fear. Will you need insurance? No. Will lawyers in London produce insurance? Will Trump produce it? No. That will be completely gone. So now the world is going to be decentralized. The pricing of oil will no longer be in this area. Eventually, what's going to happen, I do believe, is that out in the Middle East, when all these countries sign the Abraham Accords, OPEC is going to be dismantled. And every country at this point will be able to produce the oil that they want to produce. They'll be able to compete against each other, which is going to drive the prices down. And you can see already, Treasury Secretary is already letting everyone know the futures are already predicting this. The futures are already saying that, yes, oil is going to drop quite a bit. And you're going to start to see everything change. But let's see how this all plays out. And you can see the deep state players, they don't want this to happen. The central bank doesn't want this to happen because this is what made up their petrodollar system. This is their system of control around the world. And remember, their control was trying to push the entire world into the Green New Scam. So if they were able to raise prices via fear, they would be able to drive their new agenda. Now, their new agenda is going to be shut down. And as energy prices continually come down, what is going to happen with those nations that are following the Green New Scam, like Europe, like Australia, New Zealand, and many other countries? Well, they're going to have a very, very difficult time because when oil gets very, very cheap, how are they going to make the argument it's time to go green? It's going to be very, very difficult because remember, the Green New Scam has nothing to do with making the world a better place to live. It's about collecting money from the people. It's about taxing the people. It's about taxing the countries. And this is all going to fall apart around them, just like everything else that they have done in the past. Remember, Trump is changing the entire economic structure of the world. It will no longer be a central bank economy. It's going to be a people's economy, which is very, very different. What does that mean? It means there's no centralization of the creation of currency. What that means, there's no more devaluation of the currency. What that means is there's no more open-ended credit card, which breeds corruption. What that means is that you do not have to pay income tax because the central bank system, the Federal Reserve, is based on debt. Trump's new parallel economic system, the tariff system, is based on income. He's not creating the currency. He's using the currency that's already in existence. So when you do this, you don't see inflation. Remember, inflation is the devaluation of the currency. From 1971, when we came off the gold standard, to right now, we have about 3,000% inflation. Remember, inflation is cumulative over time. So when you hear 1%, 2%, it's just for this year, this moment in time. And if that is true, that we only have 2% or 3%, or if we go back to 0%, then we should be able to go all the way back to 1971 prices. Why can't we? Because again, we have all this currency floating around in the economy. The more currency you have, the less it's worth. So to get rid of the inflation, what does Trump have to do in the end? He has to pay off the debt. Now, he can mitigate the inflation by lowering energy costs quite a bit. Remember, when energy goes up, it's not inflation. It's a shock to the system. It's a pricing shock. When it goes back down, that shock is relieved. So Trump can mitigate that very easily and give the buying power back to the people. And that affects, yes, the prices on certain items, food, travel, shipping, plane tickets, things like that. Does it get rid of the 3,000% inflation? No, it does not. He can also remove the income tax because as the new parallel economic system pays for the debt, the interest payments, the people then are relieved of that pressure. The buying power comes back to the people. Does that get rid of the inflation? No, it just gives more money back into your pocket to basically compete with the devaluation of the currency. Eventually, what I think Trump is going to do is going to show that this debt that we have today was created by the rebellion against the United States of America. And if you look at Amendment 14, Section 4, if there's any type of rebellion, that debt is kind of null and void. And I do believe he's going to bring this all the way back and show that most of it was done via fraud, and fraud vitiates everything, which means the amount of debt that's going to have to pay back is not going to be $38, $39 trillion. It's going to be a lot less. And think about what happens when he revalues gold. Remember, gold is only valued at $42 an ounce right now. Is that what gold is right now? I think Trump is waiting for gold to go way, way higher. And once we find out we have all the gold in Fort Knox, all of a sudden, everything is about to change. And we see that Trump now is restructuring everything the deep state players have set up, everything the central bank has set up, Everything is about to change. And you can see the deep state players, they're trying to stop this every step of the way. Why do you think out in California, they're passing a law to stop someone from uncovering fraud? Does that make any sense? I think the Babylon Bee pretty much sums it up. California passes law making it a crime to report a crime. That's exactly what they did because they're trying to cover up their crime. Absolutely amazing. And you can see the D's right now, they're actually angry and pissed off because the Bidens will not go away. Right now we have Jill's memoirs, and she revealed that she feared Joe was having a stroke on the debate stage. Hunter Biden was interviewed by Candace Owens, and it seems like they just won't go away. Trump responded to all this and said the following. Jill Biden is now out there finally admitting that she did not know what went wrong with Sleepy Joe during our spectacular and highly rated 2024 presidential debate, where Joe was not exactly performing to the highest level of debate standards. She said that she thought he was having a stroke and various other really bad things, and yet never rushed onto the stage to help her troubled husband, as any good wife would do. The only thing she failed to mention was how well I was doing prior to his near total collapse. In other words, as many have asked, did my strong performance in the debate cause him to plain and simple choke, leading to his ignominious defeat? Or were other reasons the cause? Nobody else knows the answer to that, but I do. Very, very interesting. So once again, he knows that Biden was having a complete and utter breakdown. Or was that really Biden? That's very, very interesting. Let's see how that all plays out. But look what the deep state players are trying to do. We have a Clinton judge that temporarily blocked Trump's $1.8 billion compensation fund for victims of wrongful DOJ prosecution. Now, once again, all they can do is delay. And we've seen this before where the deep state players, they push their agenda to stop Trump in every way possible. Now, what do you think Trump is going to do? He's going to appeal this. And the U.S. District Court Judge Leonie Brinkema of the Eastern District of Virginia is going to lose, just like every single judge that delayed everything always loses. Because once again, this is the deep state judiciary. They have the level of judges that have been put into place to protect the criminal syndicate. So if there's any cases that are going after the criminal syndicate, these judges basically protected the criminal syndicate to make sure that it wouldn't go anywhere, that it would just be shut down. Now they're using the judiciary to try to delay everything that Trump is doing. But again, in the end, it's all going to fail. And we can see at this point in time, Soros, like we said from the very, very beginning, he is now in a lot of trouble. And it looks like he's being put on notice by Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Because once again, what are they doing? They're following the money. And they're going to follow it to all the different NGOs, and they're going to follow it to Soros. Nick Sorter put this out and said, Scott Bessent just revealed the IRS has moved to make the NGOs liable for violent activity committed by their grant recipients like Antifa. George Soros has been put on notice. The IRS is now giving guidance on the Form 990, which nonprofits they have to file. We are going to demand that nonprofits know their grant recipients. So if a grant recipient is violent, if they are suppressing people's rights, then you are responsible for that. As for the investigation into who is funding Antifa terrorism, we made substantial progress. And I think in the weeks and months ahead, we're going to have a lot to report. So I wonder who's funding all this. Soros and his Open Society foundations? They've been funneling money and bankrolling many of the dark money projects and radical left movements to destabilize conservative governments and place radical left globalists in power. Now, remember, there's going to be many, many different layers because, again, it's not like they just hand over the money and say, okay, go ahead and do this. They do this through many different NGOs, many shell companies, and this is how you launder the money to get it to the people that you need to get it to. So I do believe what Bessent has been doing is that they've been tracking all of this and following the money, probably using forensic accounting to find out where all these funds come from. The same thing with the money laundering to Somalis, for Medicaid, hospice, and everything else across the country. Again, these are the people that take the fall, the lower level people. But the upper level people that have been orchestrating all this, that's the source of the problem. And again, if you go all the way to the source, it's the Federal Reserve. So I do believe we could see at this point in time, Trump is winning against Soros and many others, pushing them back, pushing the dark back. And I do believe that soon we're going to learn who's truly behind all of this. And this is going to be very, very interesting. And remember, it's not just Soros. There are many other people that were funding and pushing certain lawsuits to try to stop Trump interfering with the elections. Think about this for a second. Julie Kelly put this out and said, the story is changing in real time. CBS News first put out, Justice Department investigating whether Trump accuser E. Jean Carroll committed perjury, sources say. And then all of a sudden the story changed. And here's the new story from CBS. The Justice Department has launched a criminal investigation into a nonprofit run by billionaire Reid Hoffman that funded a portion of author E. Jean Carroll's civil litigation against President Trump. So basically, you could see what Trump and team, what they're really going after. They're going after those individuals, the source of who was funding all this. Remember, E. Jean Carroll, she was used. They promised you, you're going to get a lot of money. You're going to sell your books, and we'll pay you for all this. Yes, they picked this crazy woman to go along with it because she has no morals or anything like that. And they funded all of this. Remember, Trump is now tracking down and pointing out those people who actually are the source of the problem. So the U.S. Attorney's Office put this out and said, the following is a statement by Andrew S. Botros, United States Attorney for the Northern District of Illinois. In light of a widespread reporting and intense media and public interest into the E. Jean Carroll matter, in New York, the Chicago U.S. Attorney's Office can confirm that it is not open and has never opened a criminal investigation into E. Jean Carroll. Any claim to the contrary is categorically false. Julie Kelly says, so reporting that DOJ is investigating Carroll is incorrect. It does appear DOJ is investigating Reid Hoffman, perhaps for more than just funding her lawsuits, which is not alleged as some reporters claim. It's a proven fact. To clarify, this means U.S. Attorney Office in Chicago isn't handling any inquiry into Carroll's testimony. It doesn't mean an investigation is not underway in another office. Absolutely. But it looks like with the fake news, they were trying to shift this just onto E. Jean Carroll away from Reid Hoffman. But we could see at this point in time, I do believe Trump's team, they are now tracking down and proving that these people were behind all this. Remember, Trump is always going to go to the source of the problem. And you could see this is exactly what he's doing. And he's going to show the world who was actually going against the United States of America. That they created these fake cases. They created these fake narratives. And they used them against Trump. Go all the way back to Russia collusion. Who funded that? Think about it for a second. We know Obama, Hillary Clinton, they were all involved in this. Everything was fake. So basically, these people are treasonous to this country. And they overthrew the United States government in 2020. So again, the people are learning, and they will continue to learn. And you can see Tulsi Gabbard, she has resigned her position. Her husband has cancer. But it looks like she's working on declassifying some very interesting information. Observing Consciousness put this out and said, Solomon is pointing at something far larger than politics, a slow unraveling of the system that shaped perception, controlled narratives, managed conflict, and filtered reality for an entire generation. Tulsi, near the declassification process, represents a narrowing window where hidden relationships between intelligence agencies, media networks, big tech, foreign policy operations, and internal government coordination can be pulled into public view. Trump's strategy has never been around instant disclosure. It has been about guiding the country through a phased exposure so people can emotionally, psychologically, and institutionally process what was built beneath the surface over decades. The declass button is being pushed because the old architecture is losing its ability to sustain the illusion. And once people see how the system connected end-to-end, trust, power, and accountability begin reorganizing around an entirely new center of gravity. And that's exactly what he's doing. And it looks like Gabbard is going to be releasing information about energy weapon systems and many other things. So let's see how that plays out. But again, this is exactly what Trump is doing. He is slowly but surely showing the people the truth. Because remember, the people of this country, we've been kept in an illusion for a very long time. We've been lied to for a very long time. And how do you destroy the lies? Well, you let the light in and it destroys all of it. Because once it's transparent, once people see it, people start to understand it. But you can't drop everything on the people all at once. It has to be a slow burn. And that is what Trump is doing. This is why he took the long path instead of going directly at the deep state players. The deep state players wanted him to come directly at them. This way they could start a civil war. This way they could start a world war. Trump decided to take the long way around and actually create the counterinsurgency slowly but surely. And you can see that it's working because the people now, they're seeing the truth. The people are rising up. And when you look at LA and you look at many other places, you can see people now are pushing back. And what's very interesting is that the deep state players, they use the poll numbers to try to convince you of something that's not really happening. Cynical Public has put this out and said, I know the polls show Spencer Pratt is losing to the communist revolutionary lady by approximately 20 points. Remember back in 2016 how all the polls showed Hillary was a 99% certainty to win? A big part of why polls were so wrong was because so many Americans were unwilling to tell a stranger they were going to vote for Donald Trump. They were concerned that if a word got out, they might be canceled socially or professionally. Thankfully, as a nation, we have largely gotten past that. But Los Angeles is not the nation. It is a politically homogeneous bubble whose residents still fear ostracization for the world for the wrong political opinions. Hollywood is its biggest industry. Do you think some Hollywood gaffer is going to tell some stranger pollster he is voting for Spencer Pratt, realizing if word gets out, he may never work again? I'm not saying Pratt will win, but I would not be at all surprised if the final vote totals either in the jungle primary or the general election, or both, are far tighter than any poll we are seeing today. Brian Cates says, polls aren't held to measure actual public opinion. The polling industry makes its money from a corrupted political uniparty establishment from trying to shape and influence public opinion. Keep this in mind as you watch all the polls out there about the LA memorial race. And that's absolutely true. And they tried to use this, through all the different elections. I mean, think about Kamala. Do you really think Kamala was in the lead? See, they had to do these certain things because, again, it has to go along with their cheating system. So if they tell you that Kamala's winning in the polls and she wins, people will believe it. If they say that she's very close to Trump, you'll believe that she got, whatever it was, 60 million votes or whatever it is, because this is how they work with the cheating system. The polls tie right into the cheating system, and this is why they use it. Now, they were basically caught by surprise during the 2016 election because, again, they had control over the popular vote, but they didn't have control of the Electoral College. So the polling showed that Hillary Clinton, via the popular vote, was way in the lead because they had control of the cheating system at that time. This is why they were so confident that they were going to win. But what happened? Yeah, Hillary got the popular vote, but the Electoral College voted for Trump. So once again, their fake polls and their cheating system didn't work. And now their cheating system is being basically destroyed, and they won't be able to use it in the next election. Every time they try to push something, it completely and utterly fails. And think about it. Their entire mission, and we said this from the very, very beginning, was that they were trying to destroy the United States, destroy the Constitution. Will Robert put this out and said, this is from Stephen Miller, quote, what we found since President Trump took office is the Democrats have set up a system to funnel hundreds of billions, ultimately trillions of dollars to migrants in our country, effectively with the sole intent of overthrowing the constitutional republic of the United States. That is what they've been doing this entire time. It's infiltration from within, and now it's confirmed. This was their main goal the entire time. And this is why they wanted World War III. Because if you could destroy the country within, and we get into war, you don't have an army, you don't have people fighting for this country, and you have the enemy within the country already, it's much easier to take over. And once the country loses, the Constitution goes. The Constitution is something that they've been trying to get rid of since 1913, actually since it was formed. But in 1913, If we just go back to that time period, they put everything in motion when they brought in the third central bank into this country. And the people, we have a choice. We can either let this country decline and be destroyed, or we can rebuild it. And this is why Trump is showing everyone out in D.C. If you look at the fountains, if you look at Columbus Park, if you look at everything, he's redoing everything, turning on the fountains, cleaning it all up, restoring and rebuilding America. So decline is a choice. And it looks like the choice is to rebuild. The people decided we're going to rebuild. And think about it. The Columbus Circle in D.C., it hasn't flowed in 2 decades. And now it looks absolutely beautiful. So where is all this headed? It's about taking back the country. Trump just took back D.C. Not just the White House. He's taking back D.C. The people are taking back the country. The counterinsurgency is working. We're prepared and ready to go up against the insurgency. But guess who's going to win? It's going to be the people. Because you know why? The patriots are in control. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.